Hello again, everyone. I hope you're all having a great day. And if you are a stockholder or even a fan of Manchester United, I'm sure the past few days have been very good ones. That is because after 12 years, arguably the biggest star to come out of the club, Cristiano Ronaldo, will be returning to the team for at least 2 years after a deal was brokered with Ronaldo's current club, Juventus, who incidentally are also a listed company on the Italian exchange. This is a big deal for football and has been reflected in a handsome bump in the stock price for Manchester United on Friday, ticker symbol actually MANU or MANU. So in this video, I want to have a bit of a look at the Manchester United stock and discuss the value propositions in owning stock in football team. I will do this by looking at the team's most recent income statement, as well as a brief look at the technical trading patterns of the stock. I am personally invested in Manchester United. However, it was not a move that I did to seek riches. It was early on when I first started investing in US stocks. I made a bit of an ego move and bought a small position in Manchester United purely so I could tell people I own a football team. On a side note, I also have a slightly small position in Borussia Dortmund, who trade on the Frankfurt exchange. So just to give you a bit of a picture of the company, let's have a look at a few stats and a bit of information about the company at a glance. So Manchester United's current share price is $18.29, which is up $1.01 or 6.9% from Friday's trade. They have a total annual dividend of 15 cents per share, which they pay out in 2 installments throughout the year. They have a tangible book value based on their most recent financial records of negative $2.41 per share. In 2020, they had a loss of 15 cents per share for the year, and in 2019 they had a gain of 33 cents per share. So the interesting thing about Manchester United and other football teams is that they often run at close to a loss or just break even on paper. However, if you factor in non-cash expenses, teams like Manchester United can be quite profitable on an annualized basis. I'm now going to show you a few extracts from Manchester United's most recent end-of-year financial statements and just point out some of the strengths and interesting peculiarities about owning and investing in sports teams. So to get an idea of the corporate and investing side of owning a stock like Manchester United, let's have a look at part of their most recent revenue statement. Starting from the top, and this is one of the strong points about Manchester United compared to other listed football teams, is that they have several big streams of revenue. And what is perhaps their biggest strength is that they are not as reliant on matchday revenue compared to other teams, as they do very well from commercial revenues such as endorsement deals, investments, merchandise, social media, etc. So when COVID hit and took away crowds, while it was a hit for the club in terms of their matchday revenue, they still did quite well with their commercial revenue. I want to talk about the broadcasting revenue in a little while, but those of you who are fans can probably guess why it was lower in 2020 as opposed to 2019. The other interesting items I want to flag is the operating expenses. So employee benefits is basically the wage bill and fringe benefits the club provides for players. Again, this was a lower expense in 2020 compared to 2019, generally for the same reason that the broadcast revenue was lower, and the reason why will be revealed soon. The other item I want to flag is the depreciation and amortisation costs that are so high. These two are actually non-cash expenses and are what keeps the club's profit and loss levels reasonably flat. These are the items that I was alluding to earlier that make it possible for the club to pay a dividend despite running at a low profit or even at a loss like they did in 2020. I'm going to show you some items in the notes from the financial statements now that give a bit of further detail to these items that I have just raised, and will hopefully give some appreciation for the uniqueness of running a sport team from a financial perspective. Firstly, from the notes, here is a list of the major properties owned or leased by the club, and it is from these items that they are able to generate their depreciation expenses. As you can see, there are a number of important properties for operations that the club owns. The club owns and leases a range of training, office and investment properties. Interesting items here are obviously the home ground, Old Trafford, but one which is quite interesting to me is that the club leases the Manchester International Freight Terminal, and this is quite a big investment of theirs. This is a large piece of their commercial properties. Given the nature of the land use, it is something they control and would be leasing from the Crown, hence why they don't fully own it, but it would be an important other source of revenue that the company has. Moving to amortisation, this is an interesting item from the notes. Now, in several work situations, I have heard bosses say their employees are their most valuable assets. All the while, the business I worked for had assets worth in the billions. However, this normally hollow statement actually has a bit of meaning for obvious reasons at a football club or any other sports team. When players sign with the club, they are accounted for as a financial asset and appear on the books as such. Over time, as their contract diminishes and their transfer fee goes down, the on-sell value of the players decline. So football clubs, not just in the terms of news headlines, actually has an accounting value for their players. And don't underestimate how big the business around buying and selling players in football actually is. Transfer fees can be a significant source of income. Manchester United's sale of Cristiano Ronaldo to Real Madrid is still among the biggest transfer fees ever given in a football deal. Also, for Manchester United's local rivals, Manchester City, their parent group, City Football Group, actually use this as a major pipeline of income for that particular group of clubs. They buy players and sell them as part of their business model. They buy players, develop them, and sell them as part of their business model. So now for the big reveal. Why was it that Manchester United had significantly lower employee benefit expenses and broadcasting revenue in 2020 as opposed to 2019? Well, it is because Manchester United did not play in the Champions League that year. Therefore, these respective sources of income and expenses for the club were lower or not needed. It's also a good reflection that when a club is going well on the field, so long as they are managing their finances correctly, they will be likely going well financially also. This is actually one of the strengths that Manchester United has, that is that they are a properly run from an accounting perspective business. One of the reasons why Manchester United were able to pick up Ronaldo from Juventus is that Juventus, like Real Madrid before them, were no longer able to afford players that expensive and had been mismanaging finances in exchange for on-field success. When the success didn't come as consistently, it starts to hurt the club financially. This is why Lionel Messi was not re-signed by Barcelona and is the reason why big spending teams that do not do well on the field can often run into financial strife. That is, of course, unless your team is owned by a Russian oligarch like Chelsea or the oil money and royal families of the Middle East like PSG and Manchester City, in which case balance sheets do not mean squat. Moving to the charts for this stock, here is a daily chart going back about 4 years. This is a stock that has generally trended slightly lower in the past few years. And like we said before about success on the field correlating to financial success, this period for the club is one where they have perhaps not performed as well as they had in years just before this. In this time, the club has not won anything for the last few years of significance, with their last title coming in 2016-17 season when they won their domestic League Cup and the Europa League, which is not as big as the Champions League if you do not know your football. In the same time, the club's dominance has been overshadowed by the rising success of other major domestic clubs, most notably Manchester City, Liverpool and Chelsea, as well as to a lesser extent the likes of Leicester. This increased competition, while good for the league, has not been so good for Manchester United and, for the purposes of our conversation, their stock price. Two interesting observations. While the stock did decrease due to the pandemic, it did manage to recover fairly well initially, on the back of the club being less reliant on matchday revenue and the fact that many more people were watching football at home because of the pandemic, and as a general culture shift, making the TV rights potentially more valuable going forward. And stocks are theoretically priced on future value. The second observation is the size of the candlestick following the Ronaldo announcement. What a stock rebound this announcement actually had. To my naked eye, perhaps you can see a bit better. This is the single largest candlestick on this chart in the shade of green. Also, leading up to the announcement, Manchester United had a strong start to the season, being undefeated so far in all competitions and in many of their preseason games. Now, I wouldn't be totally surprised to see this upward trend continue, especially if we see continued performance on the field and we see Manchester United getting good value for their investment in Ronaldo. And it makes me think that we may even get to see a more regular trading range appear back around the $19 or $20 mark, close to where the stock was trading pre-pandemic. Zooming into the most recent trade with this hourly chart, we can get an appreciation for the trend the stock has been going on in recent trading history. This steady increase is again reflective of the good form the team has been in, and perhaps spurred on by the rumour mill of arguably the biggest player in the world rejoining the club. The sharp drop the stock had just prior to the announcement is also due to the same rumour mill, as Manchester United's local cashed up rival Manchester City was making a late big money play for Ronaldo's signature. Interestingly, based on my blue trend line, the announcement of the signing has allowed the stock to still finish quite close to the line, but interestingly puts the trend back in a steady upward trajectory. Like I said before, pre-COVID, the stock was trading around the $20 mark. given the return of crowds and the stronger on-field performance, as well as the added marketability of the club with Cristiano Ronaldo and the fact that they are back in the Champions League, there is very much a possibility of the stock getting back to the pre-pandemic trading level, in my opinion, if not going beyond that. Just to further illustrate the significance of this signing, the post announcing Cristiano Ronaldo's return to Manchester United is now the most liked social media post by a sports team ever, with 13 million likes and counting. It's pretty crazy. It's a reflection on his marketability and the story of him returning to the club, which in many ways is where he got his big break to become the arguably biggest football player in the modern game. So just some final thoughts on Manchester United stock. There are better financial investments than football clubs out there, clearly. One of the strengths of Manchester United is its relative stability, and that's down to the good financial management the club and the business has. The stock appears to be on a good trajectory to potentially establish a trading range around the $19 to $20 mark, I think, and I wouldn't be surprised if we even see it go beyond that. Anyway, that's more or less all I have for the video here. What do you think about Manchester United as an investment? Are you in or are you out? Or do you think it should be just something invested by fans? Let me know in the comments below. If you are new to my channel, I would like to let you know that I am looking to set the channel up as a social enterprise, meaning I want to use the profits from channel advertising to support a range of good causes that I feel passionate about, such as education and poverty, to name a couple. So by watching videos and following the channel, people are able to help make a difference to these causes without donating any money, but simply by donating their time and attention, as the profits come from YouTube advertising. I think it's a unique approach to making a difference in the world, and I would love to have others join up and be a part of all that. Anyway, until next time, may the markets trade in your favor. Cheers.